Hello everyone and welcome back to Angie B Crafts. So what I've decided to do today is have a little bit of a play because I'm giving away this stamp set, and one of mine, this long one, has actually been used elsewhere and been misplaced. I know it's around somewhere because I used it recently, just can't remember where I put it. But I thought I'd use the stamp set that I'm giving away to give you some ideas. So if you haven't already seen the video, there is a giveaway video for me getting to 100 likes, 100 subscribers, sorry, on YouTube. So I'm giving away this stamp set and a couple of different pieces of MDF and the likes that you can use in your craft. So click on that video, have a look and see what you have to do. So I thought I'd use these Indigoblu stamps plus another set of Indigoblu stamps. I've just pulled them out of my stash, see which ones I had. And I also just received today a new blending mat. Not blending mat, messy mat. So this is what it came wrapped in. I'm not using the messy mat on screen because it makes the light go funny, but it's actually a really cool messy mat from Lisa Horton. But this is what it came wrapped in. So I thought I'd use this as well. And I thought I would use all these lovely things in one of my journals. So this is my 8x8 Pink Pig journal. If you've not discovered Pink Pig journals, I love them. There's a few reasons that I love them. One is that they're called Pink Pig, which is just a really cool name, and you get pictures of lots of pigs all over them. The second one is the way that they're bound. The way that they've been bound, let me find it, means that you can actually choose to take out individual pages. All you have to do is pull these open and take it round until you get to the page you want. So you can put your pages back in whatever order you want, and then you just squeeze them back together and they become secure again. It's a really good thing when you are wanting to do, I mean, I'm not a tidy crafter, as anyone who's watched me will know, but if you are wanting to be particularly clean in your journal and you want to work on an individual page, it's a really useful thing to have. You can get them in a whole range of different colours. They've all got sort of handmade paper covers on them, which are board covers, so you can easily decorate them. And then the paper within is quite a thick paper as well. So what I thought I'll do is I'll have a flick through here. I've not had a chance to have a look through and see what I've got in here, but see if I can find a page that maybe already started or that we can add to. Start at the back and start clicking. Oh, that one's nice because we've got bobbly bits on here as well. So I think that would be quite a nice background to work on. Yes, that's the background I'm going to work on. I'm going to add some other colours and things to it as well. Right, so first of all, I need to get some brushes for my inks, which I forgot to get out. Bear with me 1 second while I find where I've hidden them. Oh, they're up here. I've hidden them on my desk. So I'm going to be using these brushes. If you haven't seen these before, they are kind of cool. They're just makeup brushes. You can sometimes find them under crafting brushes. They're really, really densely packed. They're so soft. They feel lovely. It's almost like having a little massage. But you do get covered in ink, obviously. So what I decided to do, I've had quite a few black ones for a while, but the last set that I bought actually had different colours. It had those 3 colours, and it had, I'm just looking, a kind of peachy colour and a black one. There was another black one in it, but I thought these are colours that I use quite frequently, so I can associate the colour with the Distress ink. The coloured ones I'm using purely with Distress inks. My Distress Oxide ones are purely on a black one, and then I have other black ones that are taped up to know that I use them with the Versafine Clairs, because they're the 3 main inks that I use. So let's get started and see what we end up with. So I'm going to add a little bit more colour to this. I think it needs a little bit of interest added to it. So it's already got, this is a background that's been done by the looks of it. I did it ages ago. I recognise the stencil. The stencil is actually one of Leoni Pujol's stencils. And I think it's Distress Oxides. Looking at it, it doesn't appear to be giving off. Oh yeah, it does give off a little bit of chalkiness. It's definitely Distress Oxides. So I'm just going to pop some of this over the top. Bear in mind with your Distress inks, there's actually, I'm just going to open this up so I'm working just on the 1 page instead of on the wonky pages behind. It's got some translucency to it, so you'll be able to see what's underneath So you can see, even though I've put the colour on there, you can still see the circles underneath. So that's a useful thing to be aware of. I'm not going to cover all of what's already there because that would make it pointless having it. I just want to add a little bit more colour. I'll put some down here as well. So what you need to do when you're actually taking the ink onto a brush, instead of just dabbing it like that, it's not going to do anything. You need to really brush into it and let the ink get onto the bristles, because otherwise you've no ink there to brush off. Right, so there's my orange. So that is Rusty Hinge. I think that was one of the very first ones I got. That and the browns are the first ones that I got. Right, I thought I'd stick with pink. I've got a thing about picked raspberry at the minute. I seem to keep going for it in whichever of the forms I'm using. Picked raspberry is being a go-to colour. These brushes are really nice for starting to get a really nice blend going on. They're very different from using sponges. It's down to personal preference what you use. I would never ever say to anyone, you must use this or you must use that. I always say it's entirely up to individual people. Some people might find the fact that these are quite bendy annoying. I find it quite nice. So I'm just going to add colour like that. Oh, it's a bit of pink up there, I think. Just a touch. Right, we may well come back to the pink, but let's move on to the blue. So the blue this time I've gone for Peacock Feathers, another favourite in the Distress range. If you haven't yet discovered the Distress range, I would highly recommend having a look at what there is. I mean, it's huge. I don't have anywhere near all of it. I have Distress Inks, Distress Oxides. I don't have the full range of either. I have Distress Oxide sprays. I have one Distress Ink spray, just one. And that's in one of the newer colours. What else do I have? I have two of the paints, of the acrylic paints. So I only have a couple of bits of each of them. I don't have the full range. I'd love to want the full range, but I don't. And I've not used all the products. So I haven't used the, oh, what's it called? It'll come to me in a minute. The embossing powder. I've not used the embossing powder at all, so I can't tell you whether that's good, bad or indifferent. But I'm liking the way this is looking. It's gone a lot more vibrant and fun. That's good. That's good. Right, I'll leave it as that for now. And I'm just going to mop up what is underneath so I don't get it all over the page behind. For mopping up, really simple. Squirt with water. It's a water reactive ink. And then I'm just going to give it a wipe with my raggy. Okay. And let's bring the page back in. So with Distress, you have the option of adding water to the ink. I'm not going to with this one because we're going to be adding some of this on, so I don't think it needs it. I don't want this to cover the whole page. I'm going to use it to cover just about half the page. Okay, have I got gel medium down? No, I haven't. Let me get some gel medium. Here it is, and a spatula. So I'm just going to use gel medium on this. I'm thinking I might stamp on it first. Yeah, let's have a bit of a stamp on this first. Get some interest on it. I'm going to try initially stamping onto the paper with the same colour. I'm going to use the larger stamps as my background stamps, so I'm just going to use bits of them. So even though I've got them onto the acrylic block, we can still just use part of them. We don't have to use all of them. Tidy those brushes over a little bit. Start with the blue. I quite like the brush end, so I'm just going to ink up the brush end. That doesn't look like it's fully inked. Let's try that again. There we go, that's better. It doesn't matter if I don't get a clear image, but I want to increase the chances of it happening. Oh, I like that. I like that rather a lot. So these inks, stamps, Indigoblu stamps, I don't know if you've seen them or not. They are a really, really nice, firm rubber stamp. They give really good images. They have a range of things from steampunk to fairies to bugs to all sorts of things. They're just absolutely brilliant designs. I think Kay does most of the designing herself. And I do really rather like them. I think we'll have one going a little bit wonky here. Right, so we're doing this onto a slightly shiny surface, so it's not going to give us a perfectly crisp image. I'm just going to clean off my stamp a little bit. I saw a very interesting video. Shiny Silver Treasures is the YouTube channel that it was on, and it was about storing of stamps. And what Dawn, who's got Shiny Silver Treasures, does is use CD cases for storing her stamps. And she puts the stamps in, she moves the kind of centre bit where the CD's held, and she puts the stamps into the case. And it looks really, really good, but it also looks like a lot of hard work. And I think I would rather just have the chaos. She catalogues it all. So each stamp set that is in a CD case has its own number. I'm going to stamp that again, but without re-inking, just to get a paler image. So we're getting these all different ways, which is what I'm after. And just little bits of them as well. So bear in mind, not all of this might end up on the page, but it's going to give us a good starting point. And I think what I might do is put the stamps onto the page as well. I do rather like this stamp here. This is the one that I'm using, called Artist Tools. So art is opening your soul to let your imagination fly out. That's a rather nice sentiment. I might even have that as my main sentiment. I actually want it the right way up on this one. And I'm going to open my book. Pop it on this side. So again, I'm still using it as a background stamp. I've just realised I'm off the screen. So I've just stamped that down there, and I'm going to stamp it at the top of the page as well. So I'm not putting the whole of it on anywhere. It's just to add interest. And one thing with it having straight lines is it's a good way of framing around your picture or your piece. Okay, let's see, what are we going to do with this? Where's my lid gone? There it is. Put my lid on, out of the way. Get my ink out of the way. So I'm thinking that I want this on this side. I'm actually going to turn a little bit more of this off, because that really crumply bit isn't doing it for me. So I'm going to take it off, just like that. And that's one of the things with paper. Paper's really good to work with because you can rip it. You can make it do whatever you want it to do just by tearing it. And again, we can move this to be whichever way around we want. Yeah, quite like that. So I'm going to put the gel medium actually onto the page, because then it'll stick where I want the paper to stick, rather than putting it onto the paper. Now, with tubs of gel medium, I sometimes struggle to open them. So if you have got one of these, it's really good for opening them. It's made of what's called Dicem, and it's something that I've been giving people as working as their OT for many years. Been around forever, Dicem, but they make it in all sorts of weird and wonderful shapes now. But I have my own stash, which includes my jar opener, which used to live in the kitchen drawer and now lives in my craft room. And it just makes it really easy for opening whatever jars you've got. So I know that I don't want it to come right over the top of that, but I do want it to be up quite close to it. And you can see here that the gel medium is taking on the colour of the ink below, and that's due to the fact that the ink is water reactive. So the gel medium takes on that colour because it contains liquid. And what's also happened on my gel medium, the reason it gets difficult to open is because some of the glue sits on the outside edge, and then when you shut it, it just glues shut. So just be aware of that, and feel free to use a pokey tool to stop it from happening. Right, so I'm just going to pop this onto here and then tear across. Oh, there goes the dog. So this is now stuck down and we've got some wrinkles in it, and I kind of intentionally move the paper a little bit just to get some more wrinkles, and sometimes that happens and it tears, and that I actually quite like. I think it makes it look a little bit more aged. So I know that's where it's going to go now. I know I've got a little bit too much there, so we'll just tear it off. It's not a problem. If you get too much, take some away. And I know I've got too much across this bottom piece. I'm going to turn the journal so that I can tear it. Oh, that's determined to stay on my finger. Tear it across the bottom as well. I want to show a little bit of that bottom colour and a little bit of the colour at the side. Like this. Too much going on. There we go. I'm going to intentionally leave this loose because it could well be that I end up putting something that's half under it. So I'm going to leave that. This will dry pretty much clear. I'm not going to worry about that at all. Trying to pick that bit up and I couldn't. So what we're going to do now is use these smaller stamps that are in the giveaway and start to build up. I'm going to use this area here almost as a grounding area. And we're going to have a little bit of flowery fun. So again, you'll notice if you see me doing a few videos, I tend to use my All and Create stamping blocks, acrylic block, and I tend to use Versafine Clair to do my stamping unless it's onto a non-porous surface, in which case I would use stays on, that's it. So I'm intentionally going to put my first one off the side, and when you're stamping, remember to keep the pressure going and give the ink time to transfer onto the paper to get a really crisp image. Oh, I do like that stamp. I do like it a lot. I'm going to use one of the others, but I think I will reuse that one. I'm going to use this one. It's like a little sketchy tulip. It's beautiful. Now I have actually stamped up the whole stamp there, but I'm thinking that I don't want it all, so I am going to take some of the ink off the bottom. I don't want the whole image. And that's one of the things that's really good about the Versafine Clair, is because it's got a good long open time. That means it stays dry for longer, stays wet, sorry, for longer on the stamp, which means if you want to do something like this, you can, because the ink will still be wet for you to remove it and still be wet then for you to do the stamping. Oh, I rather like that. I really rather do. I'm going to put another one of those. One of the things with red rubber that I used to not like and now doesn't worry me is the fact you can't see. With clear stamps, obviously, you can see exactly where you're putting the stamp, so you know exactly what the outcome is going to be. I'm going to just lift up this piece of paper and intentionally stamp it underneath there. There we go. So it used to frustrate me that I couldn't see where the stamps were going to go. And I've just kind of gotten used to it. And because I don't do perfect matching lined up pieces, it really doesn't matter as much to me. If you're the type of crafter that does do perfect match up pieces, sometimes you might find that red rubber stamps are a little bit frustrating. But there's ways around it. I'm just quite organic in what I do, so I don't worry about whether or not something looks exactly as it is meant to look. The same way as, even though I'm using this as my grounding area, I know that at some point I'm probably going to colour over that. Right, let's put this here. One of the things that you can do is carefully mark on the top and bottom of your flower on the back, so that when you're on your stamping block you can see where it is, if you do want to be more accurate with your placement. But as I say, it's not something that ever worries me. It did used to many years ago, and it used to frustrate me when stamps were on wooden blocks, which is a long time ago. You can still get them, but most stamps now come as groups of stamps. But yeah, the wooden block ones used to be even more difficult to line up. And what I want to do now is reuse this one, but I don't want to use it with the same colour, so I'm just going to give it a quick squirt and clean off the black. So bear in mind with the Versafine Clair, it does have an open time that lasts longer than most because of the formula of the ink. So by open time, I mean the period with which you have to play with the ink. It's open for business for longer periods, but because of that, it can also be troublesome because it will not dry onto the stamp as well. So if you're going to use a different colour, make sure you clean it off first. And I'm going to go back to my original colours. I'm going to take the peacock feathers, but this time I'm just stamping up the kind of tree bit of it, not the stem. And I'm going to carefully just get rid of that little bit of ink that's on there. There we go. And I'm going to use this to adorn the top of the page. So turn my page around, and one thing I would say to you is put your page in the direction you want to work in, to make it as easy as possible for you to work. I'm going to put you, how far down did I go? Okay, I'll put you about there, I think. So we've kind of got little baubles coming down off the sky or the ceiling or whatever you want to call it. I'm going to do another one over here, but a little bit lower. There we go. So I've not given enough attention down here to where the ink's going to go to connect it, but as I say, that doesn't worry me. I tend to put edges on things anyway, so I'm not going to worry about that. Okay, how about a little bit of colouring in? I think we need a water brush. Here is a water brush. Let's see what end that's got. Oh, that's got quite a fine end. Yeah, that'll work for us. And let's get some watercolour pencils out. So these are my Derwent Inktense watercolour pencils. They're my go-to ones. You can see they've got paints and things all over them, and all the nibs have been used as if they're a paint palette, but that's what they're for. What I would say to anyone who sits and keeps things precious is use what you've got. You bought it to use it, to have fun. So I'm going to add colour just to one side of each of these black trees. Now, because this has gone on to a porous surface, the Versafine Clair will have absorbed into it. If I was doing this on top of acrylic paint, I would have made sure that I was actually drying it off with a heat brush first, just to make sure that it was fully dry. So what I'm doing then is just bringing that blue paint across. But what you've got to bear in mind is that I'm painting on top of Distress Oxide. So even though I'm pulling the blue paint across, I'm also going to be doing a bit of bleaching of the Distress Oxide colour. So where the blue watercolour is fading, we're going to get an even lighter area because of the Distress Oxide. And that's one of the things, I mean, this doesn't look terribly mixed media. You wouldn't look at it, with the exception of this bit of paper stuck on, you wouldn't look at this and think, oh, that's very mixed media. But in actual fact, it is mixed media because we've used different inks, we've used glue, we've used paper, they're the obvious ones, but we've now added in water and watercolour pencils. So there's another two mediums that we've added in. The two different types of ink alone would make it mixed media. And if you wanted to add in paints, oh, I missed the top one. If you wanted to add in acrylic paints or something, you could do that as well. And it's really nice to see how all the different mediums work together. So one of the reasons I love it is that you can play, it's basically like being in a science lab creating, because you don't know what's going to react with what and how it's going to look at the end. One of the best things for doing that with is alcohol ink. You never know what you're going to get with alcohol ink. There are some people who are drawing artists using alcohol ink, and they make images and pictures that are beautiful and stunning and very, very accurate. When I use alcohol ink, I kind of blow it using a blowing tool, or let it sit and find its own way. For cleaning a water brush, just put it onto your ragget, give it a squeeze, some excess water will come out, and then I just give it a bit of a swirl round, and it just takes any of the colour you've just used off. Ready for the next one. So the next one, I think, what should we go? I think we'll go with a nice vibrant green. One of the things to bear in mind as well is when you're creating, rules don't apply, in that if you want a green and purple flower that doesn't exist, it doesn't matter because you're creating. I'll just colour this, drag the colour out. I'm just going to get a little bit more water. To get a bit more water, all I do is just squeeze it out onto the back of my hand and just give my hand a quick wipe. You can do it straight onto your raggy, but your raggy will actually absorb the water, whereas I wanted it to flow, so I've kept it on the back of my hand. So here is a little bit of colouring. Right, I'm going to do this one in the same colour actually, because I quite like how that looks. These colours are so pretty that you get with the Inktense pencils. I'm not really a watercolour artist by any stretch of the imagination, but I do have these, and I do own a set of half pan watercolours, and I quite like using them. If you're interested in learning to draw and learning to paint, there's a couple of people that I would recommend you following on YouTube. The first one is Tamara Laporte, and she's got Willowing as her, I think it's willowing.org is her company, but she does lots of really cool free courses. She's got some that are on YouTube, and some that she offers you a free taste a week when she's got a longer course coming up. So she's one that she's worth having a look at if you are interested in developing your drawing skills. She's taught me a lot. And the other one is Karen Campbell, I believe her name is, and she's got the Awesome Art School, and she's got a couple of books. Tamara's got some books out as well, but the books that Karen has, Karen Duval Campbell, or Campbell Duval, can't remember which way it is, but Karen is an amazing artist, but her books are so in depth about how to draw that you can't help but learn, and it's about practice, but she takes you through. I've looked at loads of books and blogs and videos about how to draw facial features, and I've been rubbish, and I've done hers. I'm like, wow, I can draw an eye now. It is definitely worth having a look at her. Right, I want something up here that we've not got. Let's go with pinky purpley. Pinky purpley, technical term. So as you can see, I'm just doing the same as I did before. Now, another way that you can take the colour off these pencils, which I'll show you, is you can use them as if they're a palette. So you can actually come in, and that's why these are all mine have got this, they're not the colour you'd expect a pencil end to be. You can use it just by putting it straight onto your brush, and that's a good way. If you've got a paper that isn't terribly receptive to giving up the colour once you've put it down with a pencil, then using it as a paint palette instead is a really good way of still getting the colour down. So don't view pencils as just something that you can use in a pencil-y way, if that makes sense. It's actually, it's just a storage for your colour. That's all these pencils are. One thing I like about these Pink Pig books is that they take an awful lot of rubbish thrown at them and don't fall apart. So I throw many layers of different wet and dry products at the pages, and I've never had an issue in any of them. And I must have 10 or 12 in different sizes of the Pink Pig journals. So you can see here some of the colours maybe not coming away as much, so I'm just spending a bit more time working it, and then it starts to come away and spread out. If you get a cheaper pad or a different quality of paper, you may find when you do this movement that you start to get pilling, same way as you do on a woolly jumper or a cotton jumper. You start to get that pilling, that build-up of fibres that are trying to break down. And it can look a little bit messy. Again, I'm not overly worried if I get that because I just view it as an alternative texture, but it can be frustrating if you're trying to work on a piece and it ends up covered in strange lumps and bumps that you didn't decide were going to go on it. So I'm going to do the same colour here, just because I quite like the way that looks. And bear in mind, everything that we're doing at the minute is water reactive. So the fact that I'm adding the water on to the pencil's water reactive. The Distress ink underneath is water reactive. The Distress Oxide underneath that is water reactive. So you're going to get some mix of the colour, and don't panic about that. That's okay. That's how you get your different depths and your different tones. So the reason I'm only putting the pencil down on one side is that I want to give that light, medium and dark feel. So I want to say, yes, this is the darker bit. So if we think about it from the viewpoint of light theory, the light comes from one source and the side that's further away from the light source is going to be darker. But when it comes to crafting and arting in a non-conventional way, so I'm not doing bosomed beauties reclining with a bunch of grapes, so it doesn't matter that I'm not overly worried about where the exact light source is and whether every single item that's been hit by that light source is reacting in the same way on the image that I'm producing. So it's worth bearing that in mind. Now, if you remember, when I've stamped these top ones, I stamped them with the Distress ink. And because I stamped them with the Distress ink, there is going to be some movement of the ink with the Distress ink. The paint, sorry, with the Distress ink. And that's fine. And if you want to, you can even choose to go around the outside edge of your Distress ink and draw the colour out, which offers up a little bit of a shadow. I'm wanting to draw that out a little bit more. It's too linear on this one. Let's draw it out. There we go. Doo, doo, doo. I'm thinking I need a little bit more colour in that. Oh, that's the wrong colour, Angela. So I might get a hint of blue now because I just put it onto the wrong bit, wrong pencil. But hey ho. And I'm going to add a little bit more water just by running my water brush out a little bit. I do love water brushes. I do always have a jar of water on my desk at varying levels of filth in it. But I do love a water brush. This was the very first set I got, actually. This one's out of, which came as part of a set of 3. Right, so I know this is still overlapping and I want it to. I want this to overlap this, but I want something else to go on here, and I'm not sure what. I'm not sure. While I'm pondering that, I'm going to have a look at what my sentiment's going to be. I think I'm going to use the sentiment off the stamp set that I've got in the giveaway. And I need a little bit of card. I happen to have some card here that is stamped from a previous video. Not stamped, mopped up from a previous video. We'll use them for now, so we'll pop them out of the way. And let's see. The journal out of the way so you can see more clearly. I've just realised I've not put all my pencils away. This is why things go missing, because I kind of half do cleaning up because I get excited about doing other things. I'm quite liking this bit here because although it's got the colour, it's not a darker colour like here, so you're still going to be able to see the sentiment. What I like about using big pieces and cutting into them is if you do the sentiment first and it looks rubbish, you can just stamp it again on another piece. I don't do straight edges on any of the work that I do. Generally, occasionally you may well see me. Oh, that's come out lovely. So as the sun colours flowers, so does art colour life. I really like that sentiment. And because that is just onto paper, it's not going to take long to absorb in. And I will grab a pair of scissors and chop this out. So again, it's very technical. I'm cutting out a square. So it's got a hint of kind of orangey feel to it. It's cut on an angle because I always cut things on an angle, then I don't have to worry about if they're straight or not. Take a little bit off that top, I don't want it quite so big. Right, there's my sentiment. Get rid of my little bits. And now I need to sort the edges of this out. So I'm going to try it using the rusty hinge, because I think the rusty hinge is dark enough to give it a good edge. But if I don't like it, when I put it on, I can just come back in with black or with brown or whatever colour. I'm going to try it with the rusty hinge. We always have the option, actually, of putting it on a different colour. Let's see how that looks. You know what, I had intended to put it there. I'm not sure if I don't want to put it over here and find something else to go in there. What could go in there? I have at the side of me some rub-ons. I don't know if any of these would be suitable. I don't think it's really a skull kind of image. What's the other set? No. No, they're not right. Let me have a quick look in my big book. Ooh. Oh. Could take that purpley colour back a little bit. Or I could get another cog and colour that up. What about... Oh, I quite like that, as if it's dangling off there. Yes, that's the one. Do I want a cog as well? Maybe a cog up there. And I feel the need for a third item now. You wouldn't think that would go, but I actually quite like it. So that's resolved that problem. So what I'm going to do before I do that is do some splats of white. Right, fan brush. And a little bit of white paint. There we go. Move those out of the way because we don't want to squirt onto them. I'm using the Dilutions ink spray. I'm going to pop this piece of card over my keyboard. It's right in front of me. In fact, I don't think I'll use the fan brush. I think I'm going to use it straight from the bottle. Why not? There's a few little splatties. Yay. Now what you'll find again is the ink that's down is water reactive. And therefore, when you put something wet on top of it, the wet on top picks up the colour. So my lovely white linen ink spray from Dilutions is picking up yellows and blues and greens and oranges because I've put it on top of those colours and it's a water-based product. And that's fine. I have absolutely no issue with that at all. Still liking that there. I'm wondering, do I need a different colour under it? I might need a little bit of black under that. Let me find some black card. Right. I'll just chop out a little bit of black card. I'm going to do it just holding on to it just to see if I like it rather than sticking it down and then cutting it, because I'm not sure I'm going to like it with the black. The best way to tell is to give it a go. Oh, you know what? I think that works. Yes, I'm going to do that. I'm going to use tape to stick that on. So I need my tape scissors. So just pop some tape onto that bit. Right, now I need to make sure that I've got these the right way around. Yeah, it goes that way. So if you ever struggle with getting the backing off double-sided tape, here's a wee hint. Make sure it's fully burnished, even if you use the edge of your thumb or the end of something, make sure it's fully burnished, particularly on the corner, you're going to try and get the tape cover off. And then as long as it's burnished, it comes off easily because the bottom bit is fully stuck to the card underneath it. So just make sure that you burnish it. It's something a lot of people put it down, don't do the burnishing, and then get frustrated when they can't get the cover, the outer cover off. Don't get me wrong, sometimes it's still difficult, depends what you're sticking it onto. Oh no, that's going to be a bit too, oh no, it does fit actually. I didn't expect that to fit as well as it does. So again, I tend to just burnish that one area because I know that's where I'm going to pick it up from. And I'm going to struggle getting that bit because it's got another piece. So I'll twist it around, burnish that one area, and there it is off. We're going to put you on, I believe. And then I'm going to use that gel medium again. Are we? Yes, we'll use gel medium. We are sticking some rather hard things like wood and chipboard. I think this is called chipboard. So I've got my little bird cage. This is a Samantha K thingamajig piece. If you've not discovered Samantha K, my word, the different shapes and things that she makes are amazing. My cog is just off that there Amazon. I just googled cogs, and this is one of the many that I've ordered. Cog was at the top, wasn't it? The big cog. I'll put that there. I'm not worried about any seepage of the glue because this glue dries clear. It's Lynette Jasper Pretty Gets Gritty gel medium. It dries clear, but what you will find if you're putting it, as we are at the minute, on top of Distress Oxide, it will again, the colour will come through. So don't be surprised if you suddenly get a shiny bit of colour. So you can see there, I'm just trying to get that back. Just trying to put those edge bits back into the pot so it doesn't clog up. Right, we're nearly there, folks. We're nearly there. Finishing pieces that I always like to do require a black pen. Now, I don't really choose a particular width for a particular reason. This is just one that was nearest to. It's 0.6mm nib on it. And I tend to do a bit of a wonky donkey edge. So I'm just taking that all the way across and then taking it all the way down the side. Because these are actually the trees and not the background, or the flowers are not the background, I'm going to avoid going over them. And then I'm going to go across here. I'm going to go below where that paper is and come out the other side of it. Turn my book and then come up this long side. I am very, very skilled at trying to draw on wet paint, wet ink, wet glue. This first line hasn't come out as thickly as I would have liked, so I'm just going to go back over it a little bit, not worrying too much if it's bang on the exact point. So that's given us a frame around the piece, but I always think that it's helpful if you can add some bits of interest. So I just do pretend scribbles. People have their own way of doing it. This is my preferred thing. Sometimes I'll do faux stitching, sometimes I'll do actual words. Today it is just pretend. Right, the other thing that I want to do is just add some little bits of white highlight. So I need my white gel pen. Again, I'm very skilled at putting this onto pieces that are still wet. Now I'm going to vaguely try and stick with the concept that we know this is the side the light's on. Vaguely, it is very vague. just adding little bits of interest to entertain the eye as it's looking at the piece. And I also want to add some little bits of interest in here, in all our little baubles. Now again, the same thing can happen. This has water in it, obviously. So that means because we have water going on top of Distress ink, we are going to get a reaction, and that's fine. We're still going to get a lighter tone, so it doesn't have to be really accurate. So I'm just going to do the same here. I'm just adding little bits of white. You can see I'm not being overly careful. I'm just adding interest. Just turn it around a little bit. Some of those were a little bit too straight even for me. There we go. And I'm going to go around this just as an extra bit of interest in the piece. There we go. I do believe we are done. Thank you very much for watching. I will put a picture of this up on my YouTube page, not YouTube, sorry, Facebook page. So if you would want to have a look at it, just look me up. I'm Angie B Cards and Crafts on Facebook, and hopefully you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.